We're going to do two parts on our notes today. We're going to talk about identifying a function today, and then we're going to talk about evaluating a function. So this first piece, we're going to talk about what is a function and how to identify one. So we have a vending machine. It contains these items. So if Carson puts in B3, what is Carson going to get? A Twix. What about if Blaine puts in A2? Trail mix. What if 5 people in a row put in B4? What should they get? Reese's. Okay. So because we have, every time we put one thing in, we get one thing out, this is what makes us have a function. So a function is a relation or a rule, just like in the vending machine, that assigns each x value or input exactly one y value or output. Okay, so again, we can write it here, x and y, and up above our original, we can put input and output. You're going to see those words interchangeable, okay? So for each input, we get exactly one output. When we push A2, we get exactly one thing, okay? The graph that is a function will pass what we call the vertical line test. And again, this should be review from last year, okay? Where any vertical line, do we know the difference between vertical and horizontal? Yes. Okay, vertical is up, down, right? Horizontal is like the horizon. So we are drawing an up, down line on the graph, and it needs to only go through one point. So if we draw a vertical line and it crosses our graph in more than one spot, that means it is not a function. If we have a set of values in a table or a mapping or coordinates and our x is repeating, then it is not a function. So over here, let's just look at, we're just going to put a little star here in this big gray box, okay? Functions. No repeat x's. If you can remember that, you are good to go. For each problem, circle the letter that is a function and write a sentence to explain it. So in this first one, we have two tables. When we look at a function, we are not worried about the y's, only the x's. Only the x's. So is a function? No, look, they repeated x's right here. They repeated the 9. So this is not a function. What about on the next one, on B? Is that a function? Yes. Yeah, so we can say not a function. We can write repeat x. And if you wanted to put -9 in parentheses, you could. Now, B is a function. No repeat x's, okay? You have one input, one x, has only one output, whereas on A, this -9 had an output of 1 and 13. That doesn't work, okay? Let's look at a graph. So on the graph, we're looking at that vertical line test. So all we're doing on the vertical line test, guys, is we're just going to draw vertical lines up and down. And you're looking, notice my vertical line on A only touches those dots one time. Is this a function? Yeah. This is a function. But on B, especially right here at x is 2, it touches the vertical line how many times? Twice. So think about it. If I wrote out these coordinates, I would have 2, 2, and 2, -1. Right there, I can see my x is repeating. That's why the vertical line test works. So B is not a function. Yes? All right, let's look at a mapping. Now, if you don't remember how a mapping works, let me refresh your brain. You have your X's or your inputs and your Y's or your outputs. And the arrow is telling you essentially this is a coordinate point, or you could make a table, right? And it tells you which input goes with which output. So we have -5 goes with 3, 2 goes with 12, 9 goes with 20, 13 goes with 20. And that's going to help you see, all right, I'm looking here at my X's. Is this a function? Yes, this is a function. Okay, and I would strongly suggest on a mapping that you make a table. Here on B, we have 25 goes to -5 and 25 goes to 5. What does that tell us? That one is not a function because our X's are repeating right here. Okay, so here's the thing. Notice this has 2 lines from my X, which is 25. That tells us this is not a function. So elaborating on, we know what a function is and what it isn't. We can also assign values. So you just saw in a mapping, in coordinates, in a table, in a graph, it is an XY pair. It's a coordinate, yes? So when we are evaluating functions, we are going to put an input or an X in and get an output. And essentially, we are looking for that XY coordinate for that particular equation. So when we look at this, evaluating functions can be compared to a machine. You probably did this in 6th grade where you put it into the input machine and you got an output. So I want you to look at the 2 machine functions given below. Use the given input and find the output. So if I put on A here, I have X and it goes into 2X, I get f of X. Okay, let's talk about f of X. Do you remember anything about f of X? Okay, f of X is the exact same thing as Y. F of X is the same as Y. So f of X, Y is a function of X, where just this says, whenever you see f of X, it's the same as Y. So now I'm gonna put 5 in. I'm going to put 5 in where the X is. So I end up with 2 times 5. What do I get out? 10. If I put a -3 in for the X, what do I get? -6. So I want you to realize that if I was to graph Y equals 2X, then on my graph, I would have the coordinates 5, 10, and -3, -6. All right, so on this next one, we're doing the same thing. So again, tell me about f of X. It is the same as Y. So this is saying we're going to put in an X, we're going to solve it, and we're going to get out a Y value. So if we were to graph this equation, we would have coordinates. So if I put a 5 in here, now be careful. 5 squared is what?
25.
Plus 1 is 26. If you are using your calculator for this, please, please, please put parentheses around it. Okay? Now, and the reason is, especially when you have a negative, because if you don't put a parentheses around your negative and you square it, it will not do what you want it to do. Tell me about -3 squared.
-9.
Positive 9 plus 1 is 10. Bless you. So, if I was to graph Y equals X squared plus 1, then on my line, I will have 526 and -310. All right, let's identify a couple of things. F is the name of the function, or G or H or whatever letter they give you. F of X, F parentheses X is read as F of X and is equal to what? Y. It is equal to Y. X is the input value, okay? So what that means is, if you look down here, to evaluate f of X equals 3x plus 9 for x equals 5. We're going to substitute the 5 for the variable and the variable x, because it's telling us x is this. And then we can write 3 times 5 plus 9. Okay. But I want to focus on this part right here. Does that look weird to anybody? A little bit. What if I did this? If I wrote f of x over it, I want you to realize the x and the 5 line up, yes? Yes. This is another way of them saying x equals 5. So this is the algebra part. In 8th grade, they gave you x equals 5. In algebra, I'm going to write it f of 5, and you need to realize that this means x equals 5, okay? So when we plug that in, 3 times 5 is 15. 15 plus 9 is 24. So again, if I graphed 3x plus 9, then 524 will be on my line. Let's try this first one, f of 4, and we're going to put that into f of x equals 6 times the quantity of x plus 9. So remember, f of 4 means, if we wrote f of x, right, this means x equals 4. We're just going to set it up. I know you can solve it. So we would put in 6 parentheses, what? 4 plus 9. We're just plugging it in. Okay, so don't overthink it. The hardest part is you're like, oh yeah, oh this is x. So the number in the parentheses is what we're putting in place of x. That is, it's just a new way of writing it. So, what are you going to write for f of negative 6?
Equals 6.
6.
In parentheses, negative 6.
Negative 6 plus 9. And then you could put it in your calculator. On your practice, you will go ahead and you'll plug that into your calculator, or you can solve it by hand. Right now, I don't want to waste time on that, so we're just going to set it up. So if I have p of negative 8, what does my fraction? 8 minus a negative 8. Guys, x is negative 8 over negative 8. Yes, it would become a positive. So x plus 8 over negative 8 would be negative 2.
It's not an answer.
It would be a negative 2 if I asked you to solve it, which you will on your practice, but right now we're practicing setting it up. So be very careful when you have negatives. What is it going to look like for p of 8? 8 minus 8 over 8. Let's do number 6, and we're going to solve it because it wants us to evaluate or solve. If g of x equals 3 times the quantity of x squared minus 1, close parentheses, plus 7, what is the value of g of negative 7? Again, what is g of negative 7 representing? G of what? X. So this is just a fancy way of saying what? X is negative 7. Don't forget the negative. So when we write this out, we're going to write g of negative 7, because that's what we're putting in place of x, 3 parentheses. What am I putting in place of x? Okay, you're going to have to, when you put this in your calculator, you're going to have to use 2 sets of parentheses. Okay, when we square something, we have to put it in parentheses. Minus 1, close parentheses, plus 7. So let's see what we get there. 151. Very nice. All right, on number 9, we have a graph. That's actually easier than what we were doing before. It says y equals f of x. Find f of negative 4. So what do we know about that negative 4? It is x. So I'm going to look at my x-axis. This is my x. This is my y, if you don't remember. Here is negative 4. Yes? We're going to go up. Where do we hit the graph? 6. So we can write f of negative 4 equals 6. Remember, it is a coordinate on the graph. So when x is negative 4 in this particular graph, y is 6. Let's look at number 11. Malcolm is shooting a free throw. The height of the basketball over time is written as the function h of t, where h of t is the height of the ball in feet and t is the time in seconds after the ball has left the player's hands. The function h of t is graphed below. Write in words the value of h of 0. So remember, this is saying, where is x 0? Here's where x is 0. What is the value where x is 0? What is that coordinate? 0, 5. So what does that mean in words? If this is where Malcolm is, and what is happening at 0, 5? At 0 seconds,
Oh, he started.
he started, right? So we can say the ball starts how high?
5 feet.
Starts 5 feet in the air. Because if you're shooting a basketball, that ball is not starting on the ground, right? So we're going to assume Malcolm is probably taller than 5 foot because it's releasing from his hand at 5 feet. So then what is the value of h of 0.8? Well, or is that 8? Oh, no, that's a comma. No, that is a 0.8.
That's a 0.8. You're right.
It is a 0.8. Ooh.
We're at 6, 7.
Could we call it 6-ish? We'll use a squiggle equals about 6. Okay? I apologize. These are decimals on the bottom. Yes, sorry about that. So what should it be? Not 6. I didn't realize that it was in seconds down at the bottom, but that makes way more sense. So what do we want to call it? About 9.5, or you can say about 10. Thank you for that correction.